as you can see on the board up here, this is my Special Olympics team from my high school as of last year. Actually, this might be an older picture, but I don't really know. And I'm fairly certain that the majority of you could not tell me which people in this picture have mental disorders and which people do not. Specifically like autism and stuff like that. And the picture's grainy, but that doesn't matter. Anyway, when people meet people like this, people with mental disabilities and disorders, they often treat them just based on their disorders, and they don't try to find the person within. They don't try to treat them, I guess, better than like first impressions and just based on their disability. And it is because of this that I believe that we need to change the way we treat people with autism and other mental disorders, but I'm specifically focusing here today with autism. This is an important subject, I believe, because autism and other mental disabilities can affect many different people. It's not just like 1 every 1,000 person that's born. You know, it's so many people. It could be your brother, your sister, your mom, your significant other, some of your friends, etc. I'm not autistic myself, but I do have many friends that are autistic and family members that are as well, and I've been studying this topic ever since I discovered my own unconscious biases towards people with autism. And I would like to speak to you guys today about what autism is, a personal experience of mine, and also ways you can control your conscious and unconscious biases regarding people with autism. Okay, let's jump right into my topic with the definition of what autism is. Okay, what is autism spectrum disorder? As you can see on the board here, according to Catherine Lord et al. In The Lancet, autism spectrum disorder is a term used to describe a constellation of early appearing social communication deficits and repetitive sensory motor behaviors associated with a strong genetic component as well as other causes. Now, what does this mean? So, early appearing social communication deficits can be anything from not understanding social cues to not being able to make eye contact very well, or being nonverbal, like not speaking like out loud. And then repetitive sensory motor behaviors is typically or more commonly known as stimming, and that is typically self-soothing behaviors like rocking back and forth, or jumping up and down, or like making vocal noises. And everyone stims, it's just that autistic people do it a lot more often and like as more of a self-soothing behavior. Okay, and autism spectrum disorder isn't just one thing. So this is what people typically think autism spectrum disorder looks like. There are people who are less autistic or high functioning, and people who are more autistic or low functioning. But autism actually looks like a range of different symptoms, and these are just some. These aren't all of the symptoms that we could possibly have, and a different level of symptoms per person. So it's not, and it's all support needs. So people might need more support needs in like noise sensitivity, like they may need to wear headphones because the noise is too much for them, and like lots of other things. We don't really use the terms, or at least people in the autistic community don't really use the terms high functioning and low functioning anymore. And this is because high functioning brings about the idea that people who are deemed high functioning or less autistic do not need support needs and do not need help like in their everyday life, when that might not be the case. And then people who are low functioning or are deemed as not being like independent, and they lose their sense of like individuality because they need people think they need so much more help, and they're not really like when they might not actually need as much help in those areas. Okay. Anyway, now it's time for a pop quiz. Okay, and this is where this comes in handy. I'm going to ask you guys a question, and I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to think of the answer in your head, and then you'll raise your hands. So, how many people do you think how many children do you think a year are diagnosed with autism? Okay. Okay, how many said, just raise your hands, how many say A? B? C? And D?
B.
Okay, the actual answer is 1 in 54. This is the number of children diagnosed with ASD each year in the United States. Sorry, I didn't I didn't say the United States, sorry about that. And this is it from the CDC biannual prevalence report of this year. So now that we have a general idea of what ASD is, I would like you guys to meet my friend Max. This is Max. He loves to write poetry, and he's also an avid Star Wars fan. I don't know if any of you relate to that. And he actually wrote these poems that I gave you guys today, and I want to read you guys a poem of his. I'm reading Story. Okay. Story. Tell me a story of long ago. Tell me a story of times gone past. Tell me about the angels' thoughts and how they thought about you. Tell me a story of how you came to be and how much they anticipated your truth, the truth that is you. Tell me about you and how you will live your truth. Tell me a story that the angels want to hear. This won him the 2020 Envision Montana Youth Poetry Competition. And he, another thing about Max is he is a nonverbal autistic person. The tablet that you see in the picture that he's holding, that is Max, sorry, is what he uses to communicate on a daily basis. And it is actually how we started talking as friends. I didn't end up being friends with Max until the last few months of my senior year, and that was completely my fault. I had all of these unconscious biases regarding people who were nonverbal and couldn't communicate at the same level as me. He went up in front of my psychology class and started talking about himself, and he told us that he felt like everyone in his class thought he was stupid or less than because he couldn't communicate like everyone else, and he thought that no one really liked him. And so we started emailing back and forth, and that really broke the barrier of communication because I didn't have to wait for a response. There wasn't a delay in timing, and he could always communicate with me on his own terms. And we talked about our love of Star Wars and a bunch of other things that we had in common. My story about Max is really what sparked my interest in advocating for autistic people. So, I'm sorry, I don't know why I went over there. Anyway, now let's talk about ways we can change the way we treat people with autism. It starts by controlling our unconscious biases. And this is regarding things like stereotypes and stigmas. So there's a common stereotype surrounding people with autism that they are all the same. But we saw in this chart that I showed earlier from the Mighty that there's so many different symptoms and so many different levels of people who have autism. It's not all just one thing. They're not all the same person. There are so many different kinds of people, autistic people. And also there's a stigma surrounding them because people with autism don't really adhere to the norm. Everyone sort of treats them as completely different. They don't give them the same opportunities, and it's really it's completely unfair, I believe. And then we also need to understand how certain vocabulary can impact people with autism and other mental disorders. So according to the Developmental Disabilities Council of Oklahoma, we need to stop using the R word. And this is because when you use the R word, you never know who is listening. It could be someone with a disability or someone who has a family member with a disability. Even if no harm is intended to people with disabilities, the R word hurts. The R word isn't even used in medical terminology anymore. It's more neurodivergency, mental disabilities, mental disorders. It's not mental R word, which I won't say because I don't believe in saying the R word. Anyway, also saying the word autistic as an insult to people, even if they don't have autism, or just as a joke, it's not really a joke. It perpetuates this idea that people with autism are stupid, dumb, and less than other people. Even if you are saying it as a joke, it's not really a good joke. Anyway, I hope this is all good stuff. This is all good stuff, so I hope you guys are all paying attention. We need to treat people with autism and other mental disorders better. I spoke today about what autism is. I spoke about a personal story of me and my friend Max, and I also shared with you guys a few ways that you can control your conscious and unconscious biases. I firmly believe that we need to treat everyone with kindness, regardless of if they have mental disorders or if they're different from other people. And I want to leave you guys today with this maxim of treat others how you want to be treated, even though it is